Hi everybody, I'm Rachel. Very good to see you all here. Thank you for being here, and thank you so much, Louise. Thank you, Shona. Thank you everybody from NCAD, all of the students we met yesterday, all of the staff. It was absolutely incredible walking around and seeing all the different studios and what's going on here. We're very inspired, and we look forward to discussing further about it. So I'm the coordinator of the World Crafts Council Europe. I know that some of you are aware of what we do, but because some of you aren't, I'm going to just run over our organization. So just kicking off, we are a network. We've got 35 member organizations within our network. This is continuously growing, but you'll see on this map, we largely currently have members from sort of Western Europe and then the Ukraine, but in the Eastern European region, we don't have many members. This is something that we're working on, but we have representation from 22 European countries. We are part of a broader umbrella organization called World Crafts Council International. So there's 5 different territories. We've got Latin America, Africa, North America, Asia Pacific, and then Europe. The purpose of our network, we act very much as a unified voice for craft in Europe. So I'll get into what we mean by craft, but our focus between our members and between all the different organizations that we work with is very much about collaboration, participation, and engagement. So we host various kind of meetups and events. We have newsletters, these kinds of things to keep members in touch with each other and engaged. Our purpose is very much about promoting and valorizing craft in Europe. We try to create opportunities. We try to create support and advocacy for craft, and we're very much focused on strategic development of craft and the craft sector in Europe. And part of our focus at the moment, which I'll get into, is trying to provide resources for organizations which are members of ours. Our mission is to elevate awareness and appreciation of crafts as an integral part of society's cultural, social, and economic well-being. So we're looking at the full kind of spectrum. Our vision is a world where craftsmanship and its inherent skills are valued and appreciated at every level of society. And our purpose is to strengthen the status and promotion of crafts as a vital part of cultural, social, and economic life. And we do this through our network, through our affiliates, and people such as yourselves that we can meet and engage with and talk about craft. So we are the Crafts Council Europe, World Crafts Council Europe, but currently we have kind of 2 key things that we're focusing on, which is looking at the European and EU level advocacy. So I'm just going to talk about 2 of these. There are new things always coming up, but the key one for us is the new European Bauhaus. So for those who don't know, this is all coming straight from the website of the new European Bauhaus, but this is a creative and interdisciplinary initiative which connects the European Green Deal to our living spaces and experiences. So within the context of craft and design and art, this is very relevant, especially when you think about it at a political level like the EU. The initiative calls on us to imagine and build a sustainable and inclusive future. And they speak very much about a future that is beautiful for our eyes, minds, and souls, which is not always something that you hear spoken about in politics. So the term beautiful is obviously very subjective, but they describe it within the NEB as enriching, inspired by art and culture, responding to needs beyond functionality. So this is also key for craft. Sustainable, in harmony with nature, the environment, and our planet, and inclusive, encouraging a dialogue across cultures, disciplines, genders, and ages. So this is not just within arts and culture, it's within architecture, it's within broader projects, within urban spaces, within living. So the NEB is something that we are engaging with a lot, and we're members of this. You may also know that 2023 is the European Year of Skills. So for all of us engaged in this kind of work, this is a very exciting year. This is a quote from Ursula von der Leyen saying, "We need more focus in our investment on professional education and upskilling. We need better cooperation with companies because they know best what they need, not necessarily what we need. And we need to match these needs with people's aspirations." So I think this in particular is very interesting in terms of what the Creative Futures Academy is doing. The European Year of Skills, it will give a fresh impetus to lifelong learning, empowering people and companies to contribute to the green and digital transitions, supporting innovation and competitiveness. So thinking about the craft and the art sector, this is something very much to bear in mind. What can we do this year? How can we emphasize the Year of Skills? And what do skills actually mean? How are they incorporated into our lives, into our learning? and into our spaces. So craft today, craft is a difficult one to pin down and to describe. I'm not going to try and do that for you. I don't think that would be smart, but I want to focus on 4 sort of key words or things that people tend to look into when they speak about craft. So we're talking about heritage. This is looking at things like preservation, culture, tradition, knowledge, skills, and locality. So this is maybe what we'd think of as things in the past to do with craft, what we'd imagine as traditional craft. We're thinking about economy. So how does entrepreneurship, small to medium enterprise development tie into this? How do we look at markets, especially in Europe, but also globally? How do markets engage? How does craft work across markets? And this ties in with internationalization. And then a very interesting one is intellectual property. So geographical indicators are used a lot within the agricultural sector for food, for example, but there's a strong movement towards, and there are many areas which have now registered craft skills and craft products as GIs, meaning that they have an intellectual property stamp on them, and you can't have people copying this in other places. So this is very important. I think a key kind of a key path towards really valorizing and understanding craft in a time where we have so much mass production and we have so much potential for people to copy and borrow ideas in this way. Economies of scale is something that is difficult within craft, but also possible. How do we contend with that? And then, of course, competition. Innovation. So moving from heritage into economy into innovation, we're thinking very much about craft in the contemporary space. What is contemporary craft compared to maybe what we think of as a traditional or heritage craft? How do we deal with experimentation in the space? How do we deal with sustainability? Because craft is inherently, many people see it as sustainable. It's small scale, it's handmade, it's meant to last long, but it can also be not sustainable. There are many ways that people can produce things that are not sustainable. So how do we get craftspeople to adopt these practices? Looking at materials development within small ateliers, people are coming up with very innovative new ideas, how to adapt things. And of course, digitalization. This is a big thing at the moment, and many craftspeople who are dealing more in the heritage or traditional space are struggling with this and trying to contend with digitalization, how to incorporate it, how to deal with competition, and how to innovate. And then alongside this, we always have the question of the parallels of craft. So when we speak of it, many people will think craft and design, art, craft. Where do we define them? How do we differentiate? Is it important to do that? How do we find ways of valorizing each one? Should they be different? Is it interdisciplinary? So these are questions. They're not always answers, but we need to look at the needs. We need to look at the definitions, the validity, and the cross-disciplinarity of these sort of 3 different maybe sectors or practices or disciplines, but what do we find there, and where does craft sit apart maybe? So these are just things to raise. So the topic of us being here with the Creative Futures Academy is new ways of learning. So we had a fantastic time yesterday hearing about all the different programs that are being run here, all the different projects, seeing studios, meeting students. But there are challenges to this, of course. So within the craft sector, we're thinking about resilience, adaptability, and methodology. So some approaches to resilience, of course, would be identifying best practices. So within an environment like this, I think that this kind of mixed model learning, a way of curating your own courses, is definitely a way that we can identify best practices. Adaptability, what are the societal needs? We think about industry, but also what do people need? How are people engaging with their own consumer practices? How are people thinking about their lived environments? How are people engaging with sustainability? So remaining adaptable and flexible is very important. And then methodology, of course. So future-proofing how we learn and how we think about how studios operate, how people share knowledge, and what are we going into in the future? Because the kind of industrial revolution and the way that people have been practicing and producing things has remained very much the same, but we're seeing rapid developments now. And we need to also consider, how do we future-proof, how do we teach people to learn in new ways and to engage with what's what's coming, and we don't know what's coming. So I just want to move on to our major project at the moment, which is called Crafting the Future. This is an EU-funded project under the Creative Europe program. It's a 3-year project, and we launched it last year. It continues until 2025, and it includes a wide range of different work packages. So this is anything to do with sectoral reporting, research, networking, training, financial support. So I'm just going to jump into this quickly. The first activity under the Crafting the Future project was launched on Tuesday. The first one I'm talking about was launched on Tuesday. It's the digital training program. This was run by Fab Lab Barcelona and the distributed design platform. So we had 60 participants who are engaging with masterclasses online. We have some live sessions as well as pre-recorded sessions, but they focus on topics such as new and emerging digital markets for creative industries, collaborative and sustainable practices, and designing for action, engagement, and resilience. And we've got people from all skill levels, people who barely know how to use something like Photoshop, to people who are really experts in the digital space. And this program is going to be running for 2 months, and we'll be repeating it again next year. The next one is building a craft and design enterprise program. So this is in its planning phase, and it's in collaboration with the WCCCE. And this will also be opened up to craftspeople across Europe. It's very much about engaging with entrepreneurial ideas. How do you build an actual enterprise? How do you market and promote yourself and create a unique product? But this is not yet launched. We're going to be doing later this year a MOOC, which is a mass online something. Sorry, I can never remember what MOOC stands for, but it's a series of webinars online, and it's all related to circular economy and sustainability. And we're looking for about 300 participants in that. We have the new European Bauhaus webinars program. So I spoke about the NEB earlier, but we've been running, so far we've had 2 webinars. The first one was called Crafting the Path to a Greener Europe. That was in October last year, and the theme of that was sustainability. And then in January, we had the digital hand, the role of new tools and technologies in craft. So that was under the theme of digitalization. And then over the next 2 years, we're going to have 4 more webinars on innovation and experimentation, circular economy, GIs for the craft sector, and social inclusion. So in these webinars, they're normally about an hour and a half long. We have different experts from across Europe within the sector. So please follow our social media and you'll hear about them. Then continuing with the activities under Crafting the Future, we have continued financial support to members. So all of our 35 members can apply for support grants for different networking and training activities. So these might be local projects that they're running, workshops, events for craftspeople to network. So they apply for these, and then we distribute those funds to them. We have every year, and because the Crafts Council, I didn't mention this earlier, Crafts Council Europe was founded in 1979, so we're over 40 years old now. And every year there's an annual conference. This year it's being held in Malta by the Malta Crafts Foundation, and you'll hear from Elton later. He is the CEO of that. So the annual conference is very much an opportunity for different stakeholders and members to get together, to network, to discuss craft, and to hear about particular topics that are relevant at the time. And we normally have a theme for that conference. And then at the moment, we're running funding grants for the European Artistic Craft Days. This is a project that we provide grants for people who are maybe doing something within their studio to engage with the public. So that's open at the moment. We also have the Creative Exchange Residency Program. This is for craftspeople to spend time in one another's studios. So we give a funding grant for them to travel, work in somebody else's space, share knowledge, share ideas, and then the other person comes to their studio. So it's an exchange, an opportunity to engage with a new environment. And then at the moment, this is the Knowledge Exchange Residency, which you are all at this very minute. So we have 9 members here from our member organizations as well as some other stakeholders. And we're running another one in Granada next week. And the point is really to bring people together, to engage with an environment like this, like the CFA, meet different people. So this is why we're here. So yes, that's just showing you next week in Granada. We'll be at the National Reference Center for Crafts, a different group of people, of course. And this will also happen next year, the Knowledge Exchange. And then lastly, also under Crafting the Future, we're commissioning reports on the European craft sector. So we're doing 5 independent reports. At the moment, we are working on the European market for crafts. So this is a full spectrum study of the market. We're also working on the analysis of the resilience of the craft sector. So this is very much post-pandemic, but also looking at other aspects of resilience. And then coming up over the next 2 years, we'll be doing 3 other studies: research on business and production opportunities, analysis of integration of digital design and fabrication technologies, and then the European craft sector and the Creative Europe cross-cutting priorities, because this is all funded by the Creative Europe program. So the priorities of Creative Europe are climate change, inclusion, diversity, and gender equality. So those will be studies that will also, once we have all the findings and the reports are ready, they'll be available for the public to engage with. How are we for time? Okay. I just wanted to highlight for some of the students that are here, just in terms of how you can engage with the work that we're doing, because some of the projects are very much related to our members and our organizations, but these are the ones, I just summarized them quickly. If you keep an eye on our social media and our website, these are things that you can engage with. You can apply for funding. You could do a residency. You could watch the MOOC, watch the webinars. So I just quickly put this there. And that is all. So I'm open for questions. I also just want to say a final thank you to everybody for being here, and especially to NCAD. Your campus is absolutely incredible, and the mix of heritage and history was really, really interesting to learn about. So thank you for having us. Okay.